Hey everybody, hey Coyote Kid. All right, we got the today command. There are a couple quick updates. Mentoring is canceled for today. Peter has been sick, totally fine, very reasonable cause of cancellation. And I didn't make a YouTube yesterday. Most of the time I make one yesterday, but then I don't release it till today. But I didn't even make one yesterday. I was just out of it, woke up late, felt tired, ended up just doing some game design stuff and some other kind of light work. So I'm hoping today's good. I feel good. I just I just took a week off of YouTube, I guess. Hey, Stilly. Yeah, so those are quick updates. And then Zapway to give me a suggestion that I took, and I want to give them a point once they're here so that they know I gifted them a point. Hey, Smoke. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to look at the roadmap. So there are iterations on this roadmap, and you can see that the red bar is now past the end of all of these bars. So now these are no longer in the current iteration. And I think the only outstanding one was this. And there's a PR for this. Hey, Sarah. There's a PR for this. And I don't know if it addresses this particular issue. Although it doesn't matter. What am I doing? There. All right. This PR addresses, yeah, 10. Okay. So, all right. Well, then we're going to take a look at that. I don't think there's anything else too much here. Maybe the only other thing I'll put is that the quest stuff. So next iteration has nothing, right? Yeah. So where's quest stuff? Quest stuff I'll put onto dark for this week. Yeah. All right. Iteration current. Assign to, well, darn it. No, I didn't want that. Dark. Oh, you can assign to multiple people. And then milestone. I guess checkpoint one. And there's one other thing I'm missing here. Oh yeah, backlog to ready. There we go. Just gonna read the captions. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, I'm just about to review your PR. I was just looking at the roadmap and making sure everything looked good, and I think it does. Hey, August. All right, yeah. So let's take a look. So PR completes the tasks mentioned in 10. These. Okay, so then we do need to split this up. Yeah. Let's write a note about this. See what's left of the underlying issue. Move those things to a new task. Assign them to dark in the current iteration. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Let's take a look. All right, so what is the stuff in here? Have a debug button for now that sets up an instance. When winning that battle, grant some items. Allow for starting multiple battles. Yeah, no need to select, no need to choose adventurers, no need to come up with proper item creation. Sounds fine to me. Cool, so logic for creating battlers is still the same, focused only on the above tasks. I added an instances container to the town scene where all instances will be created. You can create instances with a button. Instance creation logic was moved to instances container. Okay, that I want to take a look at. Thoughts, why the instances container? Dark, if you're reading this right now, I'm going to look at the code. So this isn't a real question yet. Hey, Phil, welcome in. All right, you can open 3 instances at most. New instances are created at a fixed location. Create an empty slot left to right. Debug text is rendered when you have no more space for new instances. It's rendered when it's deleted. Cool, yeah. Had exposed battle system inside instance to let instances container subscribe to on battle ended inside each battle system. All right, I'll take a look at that too. That's in instance, yeah. Take a look at instances. Take a look at the subscription to battles ending. Hey, yo. Beatles ending. This led to the deletion of on battle ended method inside instance, which is just not called from instances container. Yep. Change the event to also include the instance so we can remove it from the container. Okay, I see. Yeah. On battle ended, which created the battle won and lost text. I believe it was just, yeah, it was just debug method. But just in case I moved the result text there, can't do it inside instance because it's removed. We could just pass parent as node to floating text. I'll let you decide what to do here. Regarding hacky code, instances are put in slots. Their IDs be more specific. instance is assigned a number representing which slot it's been created. After the battle, it just flips a flag in its array of instance slots, an array of booleans. If any of the slots contains false, index is returned and assign a new instance. This isn't ideal, but it works. I think this is fine. I mean, if you know for sure you're only going to have like 1, 2, or 3 of something, it definitely does change how you might approach this. So yeah, an array is totally fine. Now, this is actually a big thing. I was talking to Dark a little bit about this, but I don't know for sure how many battles is the right amount from a game design perspective. So that's something I don't think we can answer this right now without testing. I'm so torn on this because ahead of time I keep trying to think like, let's just say, for example, that you had 100 battles. At that point, there's no way you're paying attention to each individual one. It's just practically impossible. So this is just definitely too many. We can pretty confidently say that. And 0 is definitely too few. I think we can reasonably draw the line at like greater than 3 would be too many. So the question is, do we have 1, 2, or 3? And yeah, I don't know the answer. So this is something I want to keep an eye on and just kind of see how does this progress. Keep in mind, power users exist too. Some people might want to become the gods of micromanagement. While they exist, I don't think you should ever design a system around them. I think you can design little features around them. So as an example, there could be something like max level we expect players to get to maybe 20, but power users going to like 50. That's fine since we're not coding something special for them. But I think generally power users account for some like, less than 10% of your users. And I've fallen into this trap a bunch of times of like, well, this is how I want to play. And I think we need to be careful of how other people will end up playing. Yeah, it might eventually happen, but that's the kind of thing too where we can add things later if we know the game is successful and that people want it. I think beforehand, we've got to be careful about making things that we think most people are going to use or most people are going to like. And that's what I think is the guiding principle of a lot of the game design for me. So one of the other changes I just talked about yesterday, this was all off stream, so it's not like anyone's heard this before. Hey, life's faded, is the number of abilities. Just have fun mode in max mode. It would be a funny choice. So number of abilities was originally going to be 3 and now is going to be 2. And I thought of like a million reasons for why I like this better now. And I'm very confident that this is the right move. And in fact, I wrote them all down over here. So if you have more than 2 abilities, it'd probably result in a lot going on. Remember, you have multiple characters per battle. So if each one had more than 2, then you'd have an issue. But that's 2 at a time. Yeah. So this was never a question. Having multiple abilities with too much overlap has too much overlap with choosing adventurers. So the old way that this would work is, let's say you had like 4 characters in a battle. Well, each of them had 3 abilities. You can only pick 2. So it was like choose 8 of 12 on your adventurers. And you may have like 10 total adventurers. So you're really choosing like 8 of maybe 24 or something like that. Well, this would have been 30 with these numbers. So anyway, I feel like you already have the choice of abilities in battle. There's a whole bunch of other reasons. I'm not going to read through all of these and kind of explain them, but I think this is a really good decision because one of the things that we had in Idle Ascendance was the concept of equipping abilities. And this is UI that now just doesn't have to exist. And it's balance that we don't need to worry about. And I think perhaps one of the most important things is we had this concept of class defining passive abilities. And I was just thinking about, consider the class design of a healer. So maybe you say their passive ability is something like, when healing, deal that damage to a random enemy. And now you give them their 3 abilities look something like this, like heal 1, heal all, and maybe like deal damage. So maybe if you don't need the healing, you switch to a damage dealing thing. Well, now this passive when healing is not going to ever be met because you're just dealing damage. So it's like, okay, well, do we come up with a new passive for this? Do we only give them healing abilities? Like, it just led to a bunch of these weird decisions where I feel like this points to a sign that something's wrong. And yeah, sure enough, I think we just say, you know what, could just give you 2 abilities, and that way we know for sure both of these are going to synergize with the passive that you have, and I think it'll feel better. Hey, Sam. Last tiny comment about effects in your ability to... Okay, yeah. I'll just take a look at that too, because that's the kind of thing I wanted to do today. Look at Dark's comment. Yeah. Okay, so other stuff. I extracted all the resource loader.load calls from the first battle system into game resources. Resources causes naming conflict, but resource doesn't. Interesting. Under constants directory. Also, title screen no longer has any instance references. I didn't know if this will be fine, or should we just keep references in the related classes unless used by at least 2 other classes? No idea, looking for some feedback. I think it should be renamed scene resources instead if we decide to split them. Probably only use this for scenes. Funky Monkey, thanks for resubbing. Welcome back, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Okay, this is interesting. Also added game constants, which for now just holds the tile size in pixels. Instance needed 24 pixels with temporary sprites we have. Okay, that part's interesting too. Eventually we'll extract some magic numbers in that class, looking at decide which is better. Keep class related consts and maybe resources inside those classes. Extract all consts in a separate class. Would it make sense to already start splitting resources? While we're at it, maybe make some kind of resource loader. Okay, this all sounds like a totally different PR. And yeah, I think consider splitting PRs. Yeah. Okay. Load instantiate return, since mostly we'll be using loader scene files for instantiation. But that'll probably need another enum for scene indexing, like we do the item data. Okay, all right. Well, let me take a look through some of this. I don't think we can, well, the title screen still needs to exist in some form. Just right now, it's where we dumped a bunch of debug content. Okay, let's look at the files changed and let's pull up the PR on my own system. So we should not have any outstanding changes. Doesn't look like it. So if I do a git pull and then a ghpr list and then a what? Oh, I'm on the wrong remote. Git remote -v. No default remote. Gh repo set default origin. Expected host / owner / repo. Adam learns / Skeleseller. Then do I type origin? Wait, why is any of this needed right now? No default remote. All right, let's just look at the help for this. Because I don't know what I'm doing wrong here. GH repo set default. I don't even have to do anything. This is, oh, that's it. I just pick. Oh, that's easy. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know for sure that I want to use GitLens. I feel like I had it installed a long time ago and I just never ended up using it and instead opted for, well, back then I was using Tortoise Git. Yeah, maybe it would help more now, but I'd like to get this flow to be good. And I think it should be fine now. Like that was a one-time setup thing that I just hadn't done since I added that branch. Okay, let's take a look. So instance no longer has a position. That's fine. Town now has a button called create instance. That's fine. And it has an instances create container. Okay, I think maybe we might want to rename that to instances. Changes, very minor. Rename instances container to instances. This is what we do with a lot of other Container nodes. Yeah. Hey, Zach. Okay, game constant says tile size and pixels. I don't even totally think this is true. I think it's just the tile size for characters. I think our tiles are actually still 16 by 16. I should definitely check this out. Reload these and then load up the town. There we go. All right, so create instance. Oh, there they are. Where is that 24 used, I wonder? All right, and let me write some sort of follow-ups here. Give the instances dedicated space on the screen so that panning the camera can't put them out of view. At least I think so, and I think that's what was happening, right? I didn't actually take a close look. Yeah. You can, they always spawn in the world coordinates, and we can zoom on them. Yeah. They shouldn't be affected by the zoom of the camera. Lower hour commitments. I don't have to trade my entire life for a wage anymore, but still get paid. How did it go? I'm guessing well, since you didn't mention a negative thing, or is it inconclusive so far? Okay, so this is all instances container. Let me take a look through all these other things we have here. So now title screen doesn't have any of this stuff. And all it has is this is the title screen. Is there still unhandled input in it? They're thinking 25 to 30 hours. Nice. I hope it works out. Honestly, these are the kinds of things that I think are pretty easy to accommodate if you're an employer. Like you have an employee who's presumably doing well, and they just say, I want to cut back on my hours. I don't think cutting back to 25 or 30 is a huge difference for them, but it's probably a big difference for you. Look at the same production, but at least I won't feel guilty. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's great. I really hope it works out. I think mental wellness is very important. Okay, so these things, yeah, I see. So this function still exists. That's totally fine. I think what's in title screen looks good. So I will just mark this as viewed. In fact, I'll mark all those other ones as viewed too. This was fine. This was fine. This I'm not so sure about. At the very least, let me start a review here. So at the very least, this probably needs to... How do I say this? I think the only thing that's 24 pixels is the characters. Height. I don't think the tiles themselves... Well, I should say it. I think the tiles themselves are 16 by 16. And the character's width is 16 as well. So this should probably be renamed. But even then, I feel like wherever this is being used probably isn't correct. And I'm not totally sure about that. But I think that nothing should be based on the character height right now. So perhaps this is not really needed yet. I don't know. Hey, Trackley. Okay, so game resources. This being in something called constants is a little strange to me because I don't think these are really constants. I would just say let's just move these to a different. What? How do I? Oh, I click this button, I guess. Okay, so I I feel like these aren't exactly constants. I'd probably just move them to a um I don't know, we call this, yeah, like a game resources folder or something. Not sure which naming would be good. Always say hi, then just keep you as a podcast while working. I mean, that's totally fine. I think a lot of people do that. There's almost always this ratio of consumers and producers and commenters. And it's usually like if you have 100 consumers, maybe you have like 10 commenters and one person producing something. And on Twitch, it doesn't really work the same way, but I guess you still have commenters at least. Orc sprites. Oh. We're not probably going to use those sprites though. Thank you, Quickie Joe. Okay. Yeah. I see. Were the tiles also? They were 24 or 24. Okay, I see. Got it. Okay. Um, yeah, this is fine. We should eventually use the super retro world tiles, so I'm gonna delete this. Yeah, my comment is not helpful. Lurkers are just as good as chatters. Yeah, well, and also it depends on what you're trying to do on Twitch. Like, I'm not trying to make the most vibrant Twitch community or something. So it's like if everyone were lurking and you're all enjoying yourselves, it's fine. Well, I'd want to talk to some people. At least the odds of having 100% lurkers is pretty low in Broken Crown. But yeah, I don't have some goal around people needing to chat. Okay, yeah. All right, so now we have an action that takes in an instance as well. And we pass in that instance. So the battle system is sending this. This is where I wonder what instance's container is doing. I see. I think let's consider this some more. Hey, tea time travel agent. First time here. Don't think I even qualify as a lurker. Well, I think most lurkers, I think the only thing that really makes you qualify is actually not chatting. So I guess technically you've broken that already. Well, welcome in. And hey, Ty. Yeah, for those wondering what I'm doing, I've got, oh wait, I didn't actually, let me change the today command quickly. I did change it already. I just didn't add in the usual thing that I have. Today, Adam is reviewing PR. DarkStoorM, let me add to Skeleseller. Yeah, is this that I wanted here. Whoops. There we go. Okay. So okay, I'm happy enough with this. I think this is fine. I know Dark wanted me to comment on this is something for Dark to do, and then for me to do. Comment on the combo on the PR. There were some general questions. Hey, 3D Extended. I hope you're staying home from work today, or did already stay home from work. I guess it's already late enough where you would have been back by now. Okay, so we pass in the instance for on battle ended. Where do we read on battle ended? Here. So we're reading this from the battle system, and we're getting an instance. And this is needed so that we know that this is done. Okay. I see. Okay, so yeah, the container in this case. This is interesting. Because if it were just a container, I'd think, okay, it's just holding things, and we don't necessarily care about like which slots we're at. I guess container does make sense, and I want to avoid generic names like manager for this. But I guess this is sort of like, yeah, I think this is fine. I'm mostly just thinking about naming right now. I think clear names are pretty important. All right, so we pass in the instance, and this is done this is the battle that has this event. I think sort of the proper way we might do this, and I'm not even going to suggest this, is that we'd have events also in instance, and then they would just emit them out as well, so that we're not coupling classes together. But let's take a look. So this keeps track of a battle system and gets it here so that we can do what? So we can call it init. And this knows which slot it's in. Why do we need to know the slot? Oh, so that we, in battle ending, can set the slot to false. Okay, there's another way we could do this. We could keep track of, we can keep track of an instance and just start these all as null. And then figure out which one was where. And then the instance doesn't need to keep its own instance slot. I feel like an instance doesn't need to know its slot for any reason. No, 3D extended, no need to apologize whatsoever. If you were just like, you know what, I'm not really feeling it, and you send me a message like an hour beforehand, I'd probably be frustrated. But you're sick. It's totally fine. And it's not like you let me know an hour beforehand. Although even if you let's say you'd gotten, violently ill or something and you only had an hour, that's also fine. The only times it wouldn't be fine is if you're just like, you know what? No need for mentoring today. I'll just cancel last minute. So yeah, totally okay. Yeah, today was off. Gonna take the rest of the week off too. Yeah, good. I think that's the right move. Okay, yeah. I don't think an instance should know its own slot number. It doesn't need it for pretty much anything. And even tracking the battle system here is only really needed for this one call. So I just don't think this is important. This kind of makes me wonder, what is an instance? And I think eventually we'll have more to it. It'll figure out what's going on in rooms and everything like that. Everyone seems to be coming down with stuff recently. Still recovering from the flu I picked. Oh man, that's a long time, Funky Monkey. Yeah. Yeah, it's like the end of spring. I feel like most illnesses are prevalent in winter when everyone's, cold inside, huddled together around a fire, post-apocalyptic world. Yeah, so I don't think an instance actually needs to know its own slot. Instead, I think instances container should keep track of these mappings. It could just be a dictionary instance comma int. If C# even lets you do that, I think it would. C# limitations on dictionary keys. I don't think there should be. Is there a limit to entries? Because there's some concept of a hash code, right? Yeah. Okay. You never seem to get ill. What's your secret? Never go outside. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. I get sick pretty rarely, I guess. There's a little bit of truth in every joke. I don't think an instance actually needs to know its own slot. Instead, I think instances containers keep track of these mappings. Yep, sounds good. Well, not even it needs to, should know its own slot. It's an instance itself doesn't use it for anything other than to pass it on in a signal or in a I'm just gonna say event, I guess. I don't know, but yeah. Okay, and then storing off the battle system, it'll probably be needed eventually. So I think this is probably okay. I don't at least take issue with that. I think this is just a question of like, well, it's a nitpick if anything, and I just don't think it's worth commenting on. Okay, next, let's see. So we have the instance slots. So we could do this in a couple of different ways. Yeah, I'll write this down over here. Note that once the instances container is tracking instance slot numbers itself, we may not want the array of bool anymore. For example, suppose we had an array of instances. We could tell which slot an instance is just by object reference. I'll leave it up to you to see how you want to proceed. Then I'll just comment anyway. If you do want my input beforehand, let me know. All right, there we go. Picked up the flu for my friend's kids. Well, kids are just sickness magnets. I feel like there's no avoiding that. All right, so get free instance slot. If it's null, say no more space. That's fine for now. All right, then create characters and enemies. Instantiate the instance. Set which slot we just used. This int shouldn't be needed here anymore, right? I don't think it should be. Because we check up there if it's null, so I think this can be deleted and it wouldn't be a problem. Cannot convert from int question mark to int. That's strange. Should we have a return here? What? I just clicked the wrong thing completely. That's bizarre. How does it not know that the only way for it to be here is for this to be defined? Huh. I mean, the other thing we could do is, no, we can't. Weird. Yeah. I don't feel like TypeScript works that same way, but okay, doesn't matter. I just want to see if we can get rid of that. All right, so add child instance. We're adding that here. Set the position in slot times vector2.right times tile size times 10. And then, yep, that sounds fine. All right, characters, concat enemies in slot. Yeah. And then on battle ended, battle ended. Okay, good. All right, result, message, add items, cool. Yeah, message equals battle lost. Set the slot to free, create floating text, and then free the instance. Sounds good. All right, create battle errors. Hacky way. This was just copy pasted, I think. That's okay for now. And then get free instance slot. Go through each slot, and if it is not set, then return it. Otherwise, return null. Sounds good. Cool. Yeah. Oh, add items isn't something I already had? Oh, I see, because I had this. Yeah, that looks good. Cool. And then create instance. Cool, yeah. All right, so I think I really only have pretty minor comments for this. Yeah. And passing in the instance, this was done through the battle system. I'm still a touch torn on that part. But I guess we already had the instance in the battle system for some reason. Why did we have it there? Wait, what? Why did we have this here? I don't know. I feel like this is Hey, Arch Linux. Restart the project and see. Why did we store this there? And that means that code was already first thing I knew the lower. Yeah, and that's fine. Yeah, and I think just kind of doing this iteratively and kind of commenting on this stuff is okay. Is this here? It is here. And it's here, but it's never used. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to think, what would a battle system want the instance for? And I think it shouldn't know about it. I think it should just be emitting a signal. Yeah. I think that's the way we should do this. I just can't think of why it would be needed. I think signals would be the way that we do this. Okay. Yeah, I think that's the only other change I'd make. And I know what, if I click this, I know this is already here, so it's going to be kind of weird to comment on this, but I think we should do it that way. Okay. Yeah. I don't see a need for a battle to know about the instance that it's in. I think that instead the battle should just emit signals that the instance should catch and redirect as necessary. Yeah. Then instance itself. Yeah. I think that's pretty much it. Okay. But otherwise, I think this looks good. So the only thing I need to do is send this over and then respond to the conversation. Probably should have done this as I was reading it. Battle won and lost. Please use a debug method. Moved it. Running hacky code. Instances are put into slots. Yeah. Do you know this would be fine, or if we could just still keep such references? Okay. Related class unless used by two other classes. Looking for some feedback. So title screen no longer has instance references. I didn't know if this would be fine, or should we still keep references in the related classes unless used by at least... I'm maybe not totally sure I understand this part, but I didn't see anything unusual in this PR, so maybe I'm not following exactly. But if I didn't comment on something, then it's probably fine. I don't know. We can talk about that some more. What else? What else? Can't decide which is better. Keep class-related constants. So I think these are the questions. Yeah. Still can't decide which is better. Hey, weirdo. What material is used in for your ring if it's not a secret? It's not a secret. No, it's just silicone. Oh, I don't have an actual... No, it does say silicone in there, yeah. Yeah, I try to have commands for pretty much everything so that people can always find answers to stuff on their own if they ever want. Not that it's a problem to ask me a question. I'm just saying a lot of times if you type what you think would be a command, it probably is a command. As long as you think a bunch of other people might have typed it. So class-related constants and maybe resources inside those classes to make them a bit more clean, or extract all constants to a separate class. I think this depends on what we're reusing. What was this in relation to? Yeah, on what we're reusing. For example, right now, it just so happens that shop and storeroom have the same constant here. However, there's nothing requiring those to stay the same. So they're defined in both places. On the other hand, the tile size that we use for sprites is probably going to be the same across all uses of the tiles, at least for now. So putting them somewhere more central makes sense. All right, and then would it make sense to already start splitting resources? What does this mean? Yeah, because it's not a command. Also, all the commands are actually on this site. So if you want to just test them before, you could. And yeah, if you search for because, it's not a command. Yeah, welcome in BK. All right, I'm not. What do you mean by this? Comment. Okay, cool. So I've done my part, and now the follow-up would be give the instances dedicated space on the screen. So I'm going to go file a task for that. Gotcha, bot. All right, this is probably P0, yeah. Probably P0. I'll put this over here. Give instances dedicated space on the screen. Okay, so following number 54, this is a follow-up to number 54. I would do it in a separate PR. Give the instances dedicated space on the screen so the pan in the camera can't put them out of view. I'll just say so that they're unaffected by the town's camera's pan and zoom. And then the instances should cover up parts of the town. This isn't technically how we'll code it. Actually, this isn't how we'll code it at all. Yeah. The town shouldn't overlap with that dedicated space. Yeah. Any story about rings? The reason I switched to silicone, I had a titanium ring, but titanium is not something that you with like household tools can typically break off of a finger if you need to. So I was just worried about, yeah, what if anything happens and my finger swells up or something and I can't get the ring off? This happened to Jimmy Fallon, which is what instilled the fear in me. He was doing something in his kitchen, I guess, and like tripped and fell and hit his hand on his counter, and then like had some severe damage done to his finger, I think. And if you have a silicone ring, it's you just take scissors and cut it off. It's very soft. And I don't dislike the look or anything. Wedding rings for me are I think mostly symbolic, and I also kind of like I like the blue ring a little bit better, but I bought a 6-pack, so now I'm going through all the colors. Town shouldn't overlap with that dedicated space. That way we're not rendering unnecessarily. And ideally the instances are sized only large enough for the battles. Maybe we choose a 2x or 4x zoom if needed. But we just need enough space to see floating text, the characters, maybe a bit of the background. Yeah, 6-pack of rings. Well, I knew that they only lasted for so long. I didn't know how long. Turns out it's about a year and a half. So a 6-pack should last about 9 years. And then at that point, I mean, maybe I don't even use all the colors. The other ones are more boring. There's gray, black, olive, and I want to say navy blue. And like these are less appealing to me. All right. Yeah, this looks good. Okay, so milestone, checkpoint number 1, assignee dark. And then you can't set the iteration here, which is kind of a shame. And there's no way to like create and then open the issue, so you have to scroll up to where you made it. So I think this should be in the current iteration. Yeah. There we go. So I think we're done with all this stuff now. Yeah. Oh, and then this. We need to move this to another issue now too. So start the player with 2 adventurers. This is something I'm probably going to do. Put a portal in town, just has to be a sprite you can click. When clicking the portal, teleport your adventurers into the dungeon. So essentially the portal is a button right now. So we will need that. Make a portal somewhere in town to act as the create instance button. It should let you select adventurers. That in itself is its own task. This is where once you have foundational systems for anything, a game, a web project, it's easier to split up tasks and say like, okay, now do this little addition to it and this little addition to this other system. I think at the beginning it's really hard to split things up because it's like there's just so much that doesn't exist. And some depend on one another. All right, dungeon should have a series of 2 to 3 rooms laid out in a linear fashion. Yeah, so instances should have multiple rooms. Battlers should move between them. Only when winning the final battle should the instance end and items should be granted. Yeah. Like where do you start problem? Yeah, and so as an example here, it's like, okay, we have this button, create instance. And like I said, this is totally fine for now. It creates a battle going on down there and cool, great, this works. Eventually, obviously you don't want just a button that says create instance in the game. So like we'll need a portal or something and clicking that is how you'll go into the instance. But then we need a dialogue to pop up saying like which adventurers do you want? But all of that stuff is pretty self-contained. So now to have someone go tackle that task would probably not impact really much of anything. The only thing I could see it impacting is if we wanted to reuse that dialogue that gets made for this. So, but yeah, otherwise not too bad. Generating proper rewards. Yep, generate proper rewards from an instance. There can be very simple loot tables at first. It's only one use for it now, but there could be more uses of it. We need to think ahead that so we... Oh yeah. So my general philosophy on a lot of this stuff is code for requirements that you have now. Why did that type 2 R's? That you have now. I think this is what's really important. A lot of times you could envision that, oh, what if in the future we have this change? But a lot of times that future never happens. The project doesn't get completed, or that doesn't actually be something that's not something users want. And then you coded it for no reason. And typically coding for extra requirements could mean designing in such a way that is maybe less clear. Maybe you add layers of abstraction that you don't need yet. So yeah, I think there's only so much you should be doing in advance. Now it's a little different when you know the entire requirements of the game, let's say, where it's like, okay, we know we're going to have a quest system, so let's make our items with the quest system in mind. That's different because I feel like that's still a requirement you have now, although it may not be something you're tackling right this second. All right, dead adventurers come back to life for the individual battles themselves. Set up teams and grids, characters use abilities when they're ready, feedback on abilities, managing stats. Yeah, cool. Okay. Swords, thanks for resubbing. Welcome back for 1/3 of a year. So here are the tasks I still need to file, and I'm going to write that down somewhere. File these tasks. Yeah, and then maybe give Dark the debug menu. Okay, I think it's good to start looking at some UI. And that one is good as a test bed. Okay, yeah. So now we're on to this, I think. Yeah. Let's look at this comment really fast before I forget. Speaking of status effects, we could ask Quickie if he could make us some tiny effect icons, which would be like 8x8 in size. Displaying them would be tough, but there is one option. Either have the instances be created from 24 or 24 tiles. And have 16 by 16 characters placed at the center. Or if our sprites are 16 by 16 and we zoom 2 by default, Place characters the same way. Yeah, this is... I don't think there's a great way of doing this. And so I think the way we might want to do it is we just have certain graphics that represent these things. So I think like poison would be a green cloud around the character or something like that. And stun might be some like wiggle lines, for lack of a better term. And blind could be a black cloud around the character. There are going to be a ton of buffs and debuffs that make no sense as visual effects. And like little small things, like maybe something like plus 10% power for 3 turns or something like that, or 5% chance on attack, on being attacked to counter attack. Like, how would you make a visual effect for this? A general visual effect for this? And so some kind of icon could work, and some kind of like summary somewhere. And I don't even know. I don't think people would. I don't think they'd look at that maybe too much. So yeah, it's tough to say. In a lot of games, you have some like buff or debuff summary somewhere, and it'll just list out your icons. You know, maybe there's buff A, B, and C, and you can hover over them to see what they do, and there's a time remaining on them or something. And I mean, that's kind of what Dark is suggesting here is, well, what if we put these tiny icons? But I think the icons would be really, really tiny, and I think it'd be hard to know what they represent. And some of them might last for such a short time that you don't even have a chance to like click them and see. So I think we need to do something here, and I'm not sure exactly what it is, but yeah. Either way, the system that we have can be separate from the icon system that we have. Okay, so working on adventurers. Let's close out of these things. Let's go back to main. Get remote -v. Yeah. All right, so we're on main. I want to close out of all these tabs. There we go. All right, adventurers. So for now, make a menu where you can hire any adventurer that you don't already have. Don't worry about the UI of this. Opening the menu can be done with a debug button. Maybe show an adventurer portrait on top of the house they belong to. This is kind of weird because I have this as a task, and yet I'm not actually totally sure how adventurers are going to look in the world yet. Like, will they even be in the world? Or will they just be something that you assume they're in their house and then they're just in battles all of a sudden? So, I don't know. I wonder if it's just worth skipping this for now. Probably like a character class component. I could see this being interesting, character class component. I think we'll hold off on this and just do the ability stuff for now. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. Okay, let me change the title of my stream really fast. Because like I said, I'm pretty sure this is more sensible than working on the adventure stuff. Coding abilities. Hang on 1 second. Wait 1 sec. Let me... Okay, cool. So coding battle abilities. Yeah, there, done. All right, and then let's also change this on YouTube. Mute you, edit you. I just like having these be up to date. There. Yeah. Good. So we can tackle this. So how do we modify this as being in progress like that? All right. Okay, so the goal is to prove that we can make different abilities. It's not really to make all the abilities. So for example, if you think about like what's the difference between a fireball and a frostbolt or something like that, they're probably both single target damage spells. And so making both of these right now would not really be helpful. we could just pick one. And maybe one of them has some extra effect. Maybe this can slow the enemy, or maybe this can whatever apply damage over time. But both of those are still kind of the same in that they do something extra in addition to damage. So we only really need one of those. But then you consider something like healing. Healing is different from damaging. You consider buffs and debuffs as being different. You consider something like a counterattack or a taunt or who knows what. So that's the goal, is to make a system that can accommodate all of these so that when we've designed all the abilities, we can slot them into the system. And I don't think this is going to be too bad, to be honest. Yeah, we'll probably run into some issues as we go. And then we need a way of testing this. So right now we have basic attack, and that is what's used here. So every battler is given these things. And we have which team they're on. So what we could do is we could just say, we could just give our player adventurers the different abilities and have all the enemies just use basic attack. So yeah, I see this being something that could definitely work. I'm like 3 minutes away from a break, so I'm not actually going to start coding right this second. I'll probably wait for the break. I'm just going to figure out kind of our plan of action here. Counterattack, passive, buffs, debuffs, debuff cleanser. Okay, so we'll probably start with the passive stuff. And getting that system to work, I think is going to be interesting. So probably design that. All right, so tasks. Make passive ability. And then create. So which ones of these are passive? Counterattack. Maybe a cooldown modifying ability. So create counterattack ability. Create mental swiftness ability. Did I call them all abilities? I probably did. All right, so that's the passive one. Then make effect. And we should probably have some like simple buff. Make, I don't know, power buff ability. This is like the dumbest name. And then some debuff, create maybe like poison. Or this wouldn't be, this would be power buff effect. Make some ability that grants this for 10 seconds. And prove that it works. Create poison effect. And then yeah, make some ability that confers this. Yeah, all right. Now what? Make a damage over time thing. That's already poison, I guess. Make a heal over time. Create a heal over time effect. Gonna check the review of it. Sounds good, yeah. Okay. Make an execute ability. A taunt. How would we do that? I don't know how we would do that. Maybe it forces enemies to attack them for the next like 2 attacks or something. I'm not even sure how that would work. So we probably need to design a little bit more. Design a little bit. Create an area of effect ability. That's probably the easiest one. Create an area of effect ability. All right, did we miss anything? Debuff cleansing. Create a dispel or a cleanse ability. What's not here in this list now? Counterattack, buffs, debuff cleanser, damage over time, AoE heal, heal over time. Yep. I don't have a heal ability, so fine. Create a heal ability. Cooldown modifying ability, that was this one. Resets cooldowns on both abilities. What else? Ability taunt. Oh, a stun as well. Yeah, create a stun effect. Make some ability that confers this. All right. How are we looking now? Yeah, it doesn't matter if they're balanced. Doesn't matter about designing classes yet. Can just replace basic attack. Focus on developer experience. Yeah. Focus on the developer experience for all of this. And coding thoughts. So when we get to this, look at the coding thoughts below. All right, we are set up for success today. All right, I'm going to take my break now. I'll be back in just a little bit. Is it jump time? It's not gonna actually work. Oh, hey Zaphoid, I'm gonna give you a point for what you suggested yesterday. I just want to wait for you to be here. All right, let's try that again. Is it jump time? It's jump time. Hey everybody. Yeah, Gatsby, if you want to join, oh, you already are in the game, I guess. Yeah, you can always join on this screen and then, jump around however you want. But I usually close the game right when I get back. Okay. So we're going to make this ability stuff. We have the benefit of hindsight with Idle Ascendants. because I already made the ability system there. So we're going to look at some of that, but this is going to be a little bit more well-formed than the last one. So let's start with an area of effectability. We have basic attack. Let's look it over here. What did I do? I think I named everything ability, didn't I? Yeah, it certainly looks like it. Let's see. No, I didn't. There are 2 that don't follow that. No, 3 that don't follow it. I called a lot of these. I put ability right in the name. So I think that's question number 1. And I know this is a pretty easy question, but like, yeah, should ability go into each name? Probably not. We have namespaces. So I don't think we need that. Yeah, I don't think we need that. Plus, we didn't do it for basic attack. So yeah, I think we'll just call it... just delete ability from all these. There. All right, now save that. Okay, so what's our area of effectability going to be called? You know what? Let's not even worry about names right now. Let's just save it as area of effectability or something. Now, what I did in the first game is I made a debug folder thinking, oh, these are all going to be debug things. And I just accidentally started adding all the other abilities to that folder. So, you know, I kind of want to make a folder called sample or something. These are ones that they're not going to be final abilities. But like, why even bother, I guess? What do we make over here? Yeah, we just called it abilities. So there are the base classes, and then I'll just make a folder here called sample, maybe. And this is where we put everything. And then before we make them into real abilities, maybe whatever. I'm overthinking this already. All right, so let's make a new file. And we'll call this area of effectability. Let's actually pick an area of effectability that we want. Maybe like boulder.cs. All right, now just paste this in. And now we call this boulder. Cooldown, we can just set the cooldown to something. It doesn't really matter. Let's set it to like 2. Okay, so to use boulder means to get a bunch of targets. So let's go back to here and let's search for this one's boulder. And we called it pick targets. Yeah, so I want to go code that. There's get enemy target, but I want there to be like maybe pick enemy target, and it tells you how many you want to pick. So public node pick enemy targets. Get is fine, actually. I don't mind that. Get enemy targets. All right, so how'd this work in the original one? We can't do that. Pick targets. So we got the possible targets, and then we just sampled a bunch of those, yeah. You can mix abilities and characters quite freely. You can't actually mix abilities. That's the part that I just kind of changed, yesterday. So originally the system was, originally the system was pretty similar to Idle Ascendant. So I'll just load this up and show it with the UI, because that'll be easier. Yeah, originally you had 3 abilities checked at any time in Idle Ascendance, and you could pick which 3 you wanted. The way this was going to work in Skeleseller was that you'd have 2 of these checked at any time, and you'd only have 3 options. So imagine if your UI looked like this. So this is what you would have had. And I think there were some problems with this. For one, that meant you needed an equip UI, which is kind of weird if you're only going to have 3 abilities. It also meant that the class design had to allow for 3 abilities, and then we had to balance around you potentially using any set of 2, because you could have 3 different sets of 2 that you're using. So I just didn't like it. So the way that you're going to figure out which abilities you want is really when you're constructing a party. The party size, let's say you have like 3 characters in it. Then technically that means you'll have 6 abilities, and you can pick them in sets of 2. So that's where this kind of comes in. So maybe you end up with like 2 heal abilities, which means you've got your healer in the battle, and maybe 2 tank abilities, which means you've got your tank in the battle. But you're not able to pick like 1 heal and 1 tank, for example. It'll all make a lot more sense once the game's actually like playable. All right, so we get the possible entities, and then we filter it down. This is like num targets. And I had target type as well. What was the type? Oh, enemy or ally. Okay. Yeah, this is assumed that it's enemies. So now let's write this function. Okay, so we get targets, filter battlers by team, get opposing team, where target is not dead. Get a list of those. Okay, sure. If there's 0, return null. Is that what we did over here too? We always return an array and it just might not have had anything in it. I don't like that idea for this, so we're going to change that here. Yeah, we're going to say... So I need something that gets us a random sample in an array. Does C# have this built in? C# get like sample array, I guess. It probably doesn't. Get several unique random elements from array or list, or doesn't really matter what. Select n random elements. Oh, dot take 5. So we sort them first. I don't like this. I want a shuffle. Because shuffle is not an O of n log n thing. Oh, wait a second. We wrote this ourselves in the last thing, right? I could just use that. Yeah. Array functions on sample. Let's just go take a look at that. I could code this in C#. Yeah, this was an O of n solution for this. So I prefer this. Is this the same thing you commented on earlier? Yeah. Which is if you're just going to pick a random element from a list, you shouldn't need to sort that list first. All right, although this worked on arrays. I guess it's the same thing if you have a proper list. Actually, does it assume you can just fetch a random element in here? Can I just do this? Target 0? Yeah, I think so. That means that list overrode the operator. Yeah, here it is. Okay, cool. Yeah, nice. Then this will be doable. So we don't do this. We just return. We could put this into list. We have an extensions thing. This was for array though. I think I'm just gonna go make a function really fast. In fact, let's make one here. But this should eventually be moved. So I'll just put it to do, move this to its own file. We'll say public static, and then this will be like sample list, I guess. And it's gonna return a list of T. Sample list. T, list T. Whoa, what are we? I mean, this would work. This is destructive though. Well, I guess let's try it. And then not only is it moved to its own file, but it's make it reflect the sample function from idle sentence. Yeah. All right, now why does this fail? Externally visible, make sure it's not null. If it is null, I guess we just return if list equals null. What does it suggest that we do? Throw an argument null exception. I guess, yeah, if you're trying to sample a null list, it doesn't really make sense. We could have it return an empty list, but like, yeah. All right, well then let's do it this way. Argument null exception dot throw if null list. And I think we can put something here. List is null for sample list. Yeah, that's fine. Remove this argument. It hides the caller information. What? Didn't we do this in a better way? Oh, no, we just didn't put an argument there. Fine. Sounds fine. All right. Static members should appear before non-static members. Yeah, this is all going to get moved eventually. All right. Now we just call sample list. And it's a list of nodes, I guess. Although we shouldn't even need that, I think. And we just pass in the list targets and num targets. And this returns a list of nodes. They cannot be undefined. Change list node to use collection, read-only collection. Okay, yeah, I think there was like a read-only thing that we used somewhere else. I read-only list. I think that's what we want. Okay, so let's go try this out. We'll go make Boulder select many enemies. In fact, all enemies, I guess. If, how about this? Let's do if num sample, or if list account is 0 break, yeah. But this deletes the original list, but the list was something that was filtered by link, yeah. All right, so we change this to get enemy targets, and we're just gonna get all of them. And this is gonna be this way. Cool. So now if there are no targets, targets.count, is there an is empty? Man, that's like, that's definitely something I find myself wanting. We could just add an extension. And then iterate over each target for each. All right, now let's go make basic attack do 1 damage. And let's go give Boulder to the player characters. So let's search for basic attack. So if you're a player, you're going to get Boulder. If team equals team.player. Hey, nice. Okay, great. So if you're the player, you get Boulder. So this should kill all the enemies pretty quickly. So let's not make it do 25 damage. Let's make it do 5 damage. All right, so what we're testing here is each player should have an ability that targets each enemy, and they'll use it every 2 seconds. And since there are 4 players, they should be doing 20 damage per 2 seconds. So 10 damage per second, so the battle should last 10 seconds. Well, yeah, that'll always happen. The battles will last 10 seconds. All right, let's try it out. Uh-oh. Oh, we have a problem here, which is I never merged in the create instance code. Oh, because it's still a PR. Okay, yeah, whoops. I guess we need to load this from the title screen then. All right, nice. It looks like it's working. Should be 4 and 5. Nice. That's pretty good. Cool. Yeah. So that's an area of effect attack. Now let's go clean up those to-do items that we had here. So battle system, sample list. This should be somewhere else. We had extensions. I don't think I want this to be an extension. I think I just want it to be, what does it take in? It takes in a list. I guess it could be. Hey, Hannylicious. Welcome in. Thanks for the raid. And hi, everybody. I'm working on a game called Skeleseller. I've got a brief overview here, but if I show the game, it'll be a little clearer, although it's still very early in development. But the overall game systems, there are 2 major ones. There's this shop mechanic that you're kind of seeing here. So there are a bunch of customers just wandering around and one skeleton. And it's because you would eventually win battles. And so that would put items into your storeroom over here. And then your skeleton would go restock those items into the corresponding shop. So here we have an axe. It goes to the blacksmith, puts it over there. Customers can then go buy that item if they want to. And then, you'll eventually upgrade everything. And so let's do this and click add items. And then the second system that I kind of alluded to there briefly was the battle system. That's what we're working on a bit today. So adding in different abilities into the battle system and making sure it's expressive enough. What were you working on, Hannylicious? All I can see there's a bunch of text covering this up, but I see programming in your background picture. Doing some co-working in Pomodoros. Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I've tried that a little bit. There's probably a way to make it work, but for me, I just felt like I either want to be fully streaming or I want to be like body doubling with a friend, I guess. So yeah, props to you if you've got that working and people are enjoying it. I think it is a good way of being productive. All right, so I said I didn't want this to be a static method somewhere, or sorry, not an extension method. Although there's no real reason why it couldn't be one. I want to look up how do people feel about extension methods in general. I think one of the things that people don't like is that it can pollute a class. Using VSC for C#? Yeah. Yep. You know what? I don't really think it matters whether it's an extension or not. I'll just make a static function somewhere. Although we already have the precedent of using an extension. Oh, man. I guess one of the benefits of an extension is that we could use the same random everywhere, although we could have done that too even in a static function. Hey, Vafi, it's going well. And hey, Lazarus. I am, again, putting too much thought into this stuff. So fine, let's make a new list extensions. That's yes. Okay, and then copy over everything from array extensions. And just rename this to list. All right, so this is going to be sample. Going to return a list t. This t, this array, this list. I'll just call it list. Okay. So now we want to copy what we have over here. All right. Let's see. This should be fun. All right, the comment is the very first thing we should copy. And let's copy this as well. Good. Okay, so we passed in an array originally. This is a list. It could be an array. It doesn't really make a difference. And then the number of elements that we want, int num elements. So start by throwing if it's null. In this case, I don't think we want to throw if it's null, maybe. Maybe we... I don't know. Yeah, I think throwing if it's null is fine. But then in another case where you have no elements, we could just return an empty slice. Does list have a slice? It probably has something that's like a slice, but that... Oh, wait, it has shuffle already? I wonder what the time complexity of that is. Had the urge to write about it. Never tried that before. Long story short, now I have a blog. My first ever blog post. Nice, yeah. Yeah, I think that really helps because someone else will search for this now and they'll find your blog post and they'll be able to cut through any thinking about it that they would have had to do. C# list time complexity. List operations complexity. Oh, did they tell you right on the site? C# list shuffle. Where's the official? Is it this? This method is an O(n) operation. Interesting. Although the way that this works with shuffle or with sample is such that you can do it in one pass. So I guess this is technically like O of 2n if I were to do it this way. You can slice with skip and take. Oh, yeah. Take is what I'd want. Take picks the first X elements, right? Returns a specified number of contiguous elements from the start of sequence. Yeah, that's what I want. Yeah, thanks, Navation. Okay, so let's go do that. So num elements equals the minimum of that. Let's do that. Num elements equals math.min. This is list.count, I believe. Cannot convert from int to byte. What does it think is a byte? Remove this useless assignment to local variable. What? I don't understand why it thinks... Huh. Collection, read-only collection, or... Yeah. No, let's ignore that for right now. Int index equals 0. Actually, it already knows all this other stuff. So yeah, make a new list because we're going to modify this existing list. Yeah. And then we end up with our, well, index is less than list.length. Random equals index plus random.next percent this. Random might have a next int function. Has a next int 64. What does next do? Non-negative random integer. Yeah, that's fine. All right, then t value equals result rand. Sounds good. Result rand equals result index equals value, index plus equal 1, and then return result dot take num elements. Now, what is take? It's just an I enumerable. What is, okay, there's toList. What does toList actually do? I enumerable C# toList. Is this iterating over it and then generating a new, like, is it allocating more memory here? toList extension method. It must be. Yeah, and I think we're gonna have an issue with that. Oh, count as a method? Because here it didn't complain. No, it's just a property. Yeah. toList is just a cast? Okay. That's good. Okay, good. Cool. So let's delete all this other stuff we have here. We should definitely have tests for this. And I'm going to run rebuild, and then we're going to fix the issues that we have. Can't even read what the issues are. So let's try that one more time. Cannot convert from int to byte. I still don't understand how that's happening. Oh, it does think this is a method? Wait a second. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're right, Unreal. Yeah, why is that the case? How did I use this here? List t.count. Shouldn't this refer to list? Huh. List isn't right. Oh my God, yeah. Okay, my bad. All right, so let me give the point to Unreal. That's the part I had missed. And then Nave, I'm gonna give you a point too. Okay, all right. So what I meant to do is have a list t list. And then this should be count. And these things too. All right, there we go. Yeah, I had copy pasted this from something else just so I got the extension syntax correct and then hadn't updated the array part of this. So now change list t to use collection t, read-only collection, or key collection. I think we just suppressed this. Although actually this could be a read-only list, which should inherit from list. Although we don't really care that it's read-only, right? Although we do use it as read-only here. Yeah. So I guess we could do that. I read-only list. All right, I think we're good. Let's go try this out. Inside of battle system now, we get rid of sample list. And we just call targets.sample. No overload takes 2 arguments. Oh yeah, not anymore. All right, pretty good. Let's go test that. So we should see the exact same outcome we just saw, which is that every, oh, whoops. That's it. I'm changing this right now because I'm going to just keep making that mistake and I'm like sick of it. I'm going to change this to be the title screen, although I don't know where the title screen is. Oh, and there's no easy way of doing that because now that dialog's open. Okay, so FF title. You are in game scenes title screen. Game scenes title screen. All right, now I should just be able to hit the run button. All right, so same result we saw before. Every 2 seconds, we should see, technically there are 4 5s showing up each time. And yeah, it looks like it's working. So now let's try something a little different here. Let's make it so that it targets 2 enemies each. So now we will not see stacked 5s every single time because each of the player characters is only going to target 2 enemies. Yeah. Yeah, like that time it did not target that middle skeleton there. All right, looks like it's working. So I'm pretty happy with this. And I think that's it. We've coded our area of effectability. So let's check that in on its own. This changed, and I don't want to check that in. That's pretty important that I don't. Basic attack, I also don't really want to check this in. Yeah, I guess we can keep it at 25 damage. All right, so Boulder has just a random cooldown 2. I don't care about that. Boulder should target everything. And yeah, we can say that this is the maximum. Like, is there an int dot max or something like that? Max value. I think this is what I want. This is like 2 billion, right? Yeah, that's what I want. This is just saying fetch as many targets as possible. And since sample is going to cap it at the number of elements that you have, this will just be set to 4 in our case. So looks good. We could make some special case where like you set it to -1 to do this. I think just saying it max value is probably fine. It doesn't make a difference. All right, now if there are no targets, then return. We don't actually need to do that now because we have a for each, and for each will handle that case for us. Nice. Battle system, how does this look? So now we have get enemy targets. So get enemy target can now use get enemy target, so we don't need 2 functions. Let's go make that change too. That's why you should review your code. So return get enemy targets entity 1 first or default. So what does default mean in this case? Null, I guess. Probably. I don't know. Let's delete this and see what happens. Do not use enumerable methods on indexable collections. Instead, use the collection directly. So I shouldn't be using this? Does it have an autofix for me? Use expression body. That wasn't actually the problem I wanted to fix here, though. Use the collection directly. Just 0? Is there like get? I guess that would work. Okay. Well, there's a problem with this, right? Is this going to give an index out of bounds exception? Hey, War Eagle. There is first or default, but it's saying to not prefer that. And maybe default value of the sequence contains no elements. Yeah, this is what I would want here, but then I guess we just get rid of this warning. CA 1826. I just want to see, why do people even, this is not the same one. Why do people even use this? No one's, there aren't even search results for this. CA 1826. Yeah, I guess let's just get rid of the, actually, you know what? Let's try Google. No, I don't see it here anywhere. All right, let's delete the Stack Overflow thing. Use property instead of link enumerable method. Have equivalent but more efficient properties to fetch the same one. Oh, there's first. Oh, I didn't realize. But what happens if the first doesn't exist? No, it doesn't let you use first either. Yeah, in this case, they wanted you to use this. All right, I guess what we can do then is just this question mark null. No, that wouldn't actually have an impact, right? I think this is going to give an out of bounds exception. Let's go to a C# playground and test this out. So we're just going to do int, no, we need a list of ints numbers equals new, and then numbers 0. Does this have like an autofix thing I can use? Man, where does list come from? Here? Yes. And then what? Not available in 7.3. Use 9 or greater. Can we just change it? Latest? No. I don't want to delete all my code. Whatever. I'll just write in list int here. It doesn't matter. All right, run. Index was out of range. Yeah, that's what I thought. And so we can't do something like this, right? Yeah, I didn't think so. Because it thinks this should only ever return a number. So what we could do is we could say numbers dot count equals 0, null, otherwise number 0. No implicit conversion between null and int. Oh, I see. It just can't print this out. Well, that's not a problem. Oh, wait. Oh, is that what it was saying even in the first case too? Let's do int val equals that. Not valid because a common type was not found between null and int. Isn't this the whole point of int question mark? Or is that not a thing that existed back then? Let's just test this out. Get enemy target. So if I do put null here, does this work? So now when there is no possible target, I won't have an easy way of testing this though, will I? I guess I could just always have this return an empty list. Return a new list node. Yeah, let's try that. So now none of the skeletons will do any damage, but it also won't throw an index out of bounds exception. Nope, looks like it's throwing index out of bounds exceptions. Index was out of range. Okay, cool. Then yeah, that makes our thing a lot easier. Well, I guess we can leave this as it was for now and just change this to... Man, I just want to use first or default, but I wonder... Not concerned about the performance impact. I am concerned about that. So yeah, I guess we will just write something better here. It's the same as first, and I'll throw if there's nothing in it. Yeah. I want a first or default. I just don't want the performance impact of using link calls on that. I pronounce it GIF for you. Why can't you use it? It's just saying that it's not as performant as just doing things with the built-in collection methods. So the way I would do this is like this, I guess. We would get this var x equals that, and then return x dot count equals 0, null, otherwise the first one. All right, now we replace this with the explicit type. We replace x with targets. Oh, that's still considered. All right, whatever there, done. All right, so now we should have no errors, and the skeleton should be doing no damage to the players. Nothing's happening. Oh, because I deleted all the targets everywhere. Okay, yeah, then that's technically working. Why did I pronounce it with a hard G? Because that's how I think it should be. This is one of the few times I violate the rule of the person who made it gets to determine the pronunciation of it. All right, this is fine. Yeah, it's a little strange. In fact, it kind of makes me want to write a list extension that just does first or default, but performance. Oh, man. The G stands for graphical, which has a hard G. No, that's not why. Just cause that's how I pronounced it originally. And I don't care about any troll answer about pronouncing a GIF. What about default if empty? I think it's still a link thing that you're not supposed to use. Is default if empty? We could try that. Targets default if empty. Returns the elements of the specified sequence or the type parameter's default value in a singleton collection if the sequence is empty. How is this even different from first or default? Oh, this is a default if empty. Otherwise it's something else. It looks very similar to what you just had. Oh, I didn't know link was open source. Try get first. Predicate outpool found first, otherwise default value. Yeah. This doesn't. Okay, we probably could just ignore the warning then, I guess. What does try get first do? Okay, try get first is. So we're not going to be null if source is an I partition. If it's a list count is greater than 0, then return this. Okay, so I guess the only way that this is slightly less performant here is we're doing a null check, then we're doing a casting back, I guess. Although would this happen at compile time? No, because we wouldn't know. No, wait, we would know about an interface, I guess. I don't know. So we could just suppress this and just call it try get first. I wonder if any of these have an issue. Because like Microsoft is the one, are they the ones who added this warning? Use property, performance, non-breaking, a suggestion. Supports an equivalent, more efficient property. I don't see any explicit. Oh, here it is. You might consider excluding these if readability is a concern, since the code you'd write to replace them is not easily readable. Ah, okay. Then this is what we should do. Think about how you pronounce JPEG and why. Well, now I'm going to pronounce it GPEG. That'll show you. Right, this is what we're doing. This makes way more sense. Yeah. Because yeah, this does harm readability when you can replace the entire thing with just return get enemy targets entity 1, comma, first or default. Then just configure the rule differently. I'm going to save this just in case, but I probably don't need this. All right, so how do we add this to editor config? CA, what was it? 22 something something? 1826? What? All right, shows how much I know. All right, so we put this here. And we say allow. I'll just put a link to this probably. A first or default or last or default? First or default and last or default methods. See this. Just replace the code like in other templates. What do you mean, DarkStoorM? Yeah. I wonder if anyone's arguing for that. All right, I think we're good. I think we got it. Yep. No, that took longer than I thought. But we made it in the end. All right, so how does Boulder look? I think it's really important for developer experience that the abilities make sense. And in this case, we're setting a cooldown. Sure, that needs to be done somewhere. We'll probably manifest these through constants files at some point. But yeah, this part I don't care about. And then this part is this as simple as it can be. It's get the targets, go through each target, deal damage to the target. I think that's pretty simple. All right. Now let's keep looking through this. So get enemy targets is all we use now. Nice, I like that. Get allied target is something I'll need to make for the heal, I guess, which is probably going to be right after this. .NET diagnostic code severity. Oh, I think I know what you're saying, but in this case, we still want to use it. So this is 5 different rules, and we only want for 2 of the rules for us to not use it. So they have a special directive that you can use, which is this one. Like, I don't want to disable the rule completely. I just want to disable it for these 2/5 of the rule. If that's what you're talking about, then yeah, I think what's here is fine. Ignore their suggestions. Wait, what? Why? I think this is fine. And that way, if we end up using first or last, we could just use the proper indexes on it. Do we even use random in here? Yes, we do. All right, then title screen. Title screen shouldn't be checked in either. Yeah. So we only want to check in these 3 things and the editor config. And I got to make sure to not check these in for the rest of the next like day or 2. That's going to be hard. All right, so add an area of affectability. This is part of the prove that we can add these abilities more than it is to add real abilities that'll be used in the game. So ignore balance. Yeah. Balance and pretty much balance. Now, does that use max value? It does. Great. Cool. We're good. All right, so commit that. Next up. So create an area of affectability. Done. Create a heal. So let's go into Boulder and save this as heal. And then replace this with heal. Cooldown 2 is fine. Okay, so use, this could be an area of effect heal. But I guess this is going to be like get friendly targets. And then for each of these, we're going to do heal damage. Yeah, so this is what it's kind of going to look like. What is this? Oh yeah, that was my ghost text thing, huh? All right. Battle system has get enemy targets. There's nothing here that targets allies, right? Or is there? There's get opposing team. Is there get same team? I guess we don't need that because we could just filter based on that, right? Filter battlers by team. I don't know if I want separate functions for this stuff. Well, let's write it out and then let's see if I do want separate functions. So get friendly targets. Instead of get opposing team, it'd be this. Yeah, we pretty much have the same code twice. I would just say we pass in friendly or enemy. Get targets. So there's the entity, there's the number of targets, and then we also want a, like, which team are they on? Team. Yeah, and then filter by team. And then we don't need this. Okay, that'll work. So now we can replace this too. Good. And then replace this one as well. This is the opposite team though. Get opposing team. Really? Not going to fill it in for me? Just sitting there waiting for AI. Any commit you create will be pushed given the opportunity. There's some way to do this, I think. And I forgot what it is exactly, and I probably have it in my notes, but it's not really worth looking into because worst case scenario, let's say I push this change. We'll just notice it almost immediately and undo it. And let's say I push this change where we set damage from 25 to 1. It's not going to make any impact whatsoever because this is not a real ability. So it's okay if I push these. It's just, it'll just pollute the commit history a little bit. It's like a very, very minor thing. There are lots of changes you could commit where it'll like break your system entirely. These are not those. Okay, I think we're good here, which means that this should be fine. So now we just need a heal damage. So deal damage and heal damage. They rhyme, but they're opposites. All right, and then float, I guess we call this incoming healing. I'll just call this amount. All right, amount. Now health component, I think has a heal here. Nope. Just has take damage. Okay, well, let's add in a heal. So that looks good. Cool. That way you can't overheal. So heal, amount, amount. Now the source is not used for either of these, but that's not to say it'll never be used. And that's it. That's our function. So now we should be able to heal all of your allies when they take damage. I guess let's heal them for 0.5. Can't convert from double to float. Ugh. Ugh. There. All right, that's going to be really unobvious what's happening here. So, oh yeah, it's unobvious because it's not even being used. None of this code is being exercised because I need to give them the heal ability. All right, so what's going to happen is the skeletons are going to do 1 damage per attack, and the players are all going to heal all of the players for 0.5. So it should be that the players can't die. Yeah, they're not even really taking damage. So let's make it so that we can actually tell that they're being healed. Let's just heal 1 enemy, I guess, or 1 ally. This is still not going to be super obvious. But now we should see some red in those life bars. Oh, there's some red. Now, I guess ideally, you probably don't want to target something that's not missing life. Replace heal damage with a negative amount. Yeah, we could do that, but that would probably hurt the idea of when you've mitigated damage to the point where it's 0 versus you've mitigated healing to the point where it's 0. So you probably do want to be able to differentiate between those two. All right, so here is the question. Should we leave it to abilities to filter these things? And we're probably almost always going to be filtering by health component to check if you're dead or if you're missing life. So we have, what do we have? We have filter battlers by team. I guess what we could do is we could get your entire team. So get all friendly targets and then from there do further filtering on it. That would work. Let's take a look at that and see if I like that. So now we further filter. Filter battlers by team. We just do a .where on this. Yeah, except for let's do a health component, this. .all. What do I want to do? I guess this is just get your own team. Yeah, and ideally we'd just be checking in here for everything we're looking at. Well, it will work both ways. It's just a question of performance, and this is a micro optimization. So let's just do this. Let's get the ones on your team. So this is filter battlers by team. Oh no, I guess get friendly targets. Yeah, so get all friendly targets, and then targets dot where health component dot is entity dead. So it's more like target dot health, or no, that's not how this works. ECS dot get component health component target dot life. Let's just make a quick function over here. There's is entity dead. I kind of want, I want a public bool is missing life, or maybe get missing life, float get missing life. Yeah, no, what's the problem here? Oh, that's this. All right, and then in heal, we're going to get the ones that are missing life. So missing life is greater than 0. The reason I'm not just doing it as a Boolean is because we might at some point want it to be how much life is actually missing. And that way you could sort it. Like I could definitely see wanting to do that. Why is this a problem now? No definition found for ECS. Oh, whoops, I pressed the wrong key. That's why. I was pressing slash, not period. All right, so this is our where. Then we do a to list. Then we want to sample how many of these we get, I suppose. Sample, let's take 2 of them. Let's also cut down how many player characters we're making. No, wait, we can't do that. How about this? This is going to be really stupid, but we're going to say if I equals 0, so only the very first player to get created is going to have heal. Everyone else is going to have no abilities. That way we can see if that 1 is healing correctly. So now it should only try to heal ones that are missing life. I don't know if that's correct. All right, let's try something else here. Let's get rid of your basic attack. So now skeletons will do nothing. So now no healing should happen. No, they're still healing though. Why is that the case? Oh, I see. Targets equals targets. Well, we just put this where clause over here. There we go. All right, now I don't think any healing's going to happen. Yep, they're just standing there. What an exciting battle. So then if we change this to give them an attack again, then now we'll only heal the ones that are actually missing life. Yeah, so when you see 0.5, it means it was healed. Yeah, nice. It's working. Want to make an RTS game? Any idea on how to make it simpler and easy to get into for modern audiences? You're talking about from a game design perspective? I think something you should consider is that the zeitgeist is essentially against RTSs right now. There's some new RTS that came out or is coming out soon that a lot of StarCraft players tried out. New RTS. Stormgate. Yeah, Stormgate is like the only RTS I've even heard about in a while. Although maybe there are more. Anyway, I think if what I said is even true, I think it's analyzing why that's the case. And it could be that there's just less demand for it. It could be market saturation. Oh, whoops. Yeah, you're right. I had meant to delete this. Thanks, Wolves. AoE4 is the last one I heard of. Yeah. Yeah, so if you can figure out why it is that players aren't playing them as much, or if that's even true, I guess, then you could potentially answer that question. They follow the old design, which is complex gameplay, which makes it less popular. Well, then there's your answer, right? It's to try to make an RTS that is less complex. But then what do those simplifications do? Is it still an RTS? Is it kind of warping it into another genre? So I would kind of argue that games like, let me make sure I'm saying this correctly. Maybe this is a bad example, but like Clash Royale, you could sort of argue a little bit as like a real-time strategy game. Anyway, this is like a drastically simplified version to put it into the hands of many. So yeah, when I think RTS, I mean, the very first game that pops into mind is StarCraft. And then I start thinking of games like Warcraft. And then I think of games like Command and Conquer. And yeah, a lot of these follow that same like micro macro strategies and controlling a whole million things at once and maximizing your APM. And it's such a different game to play casually than it is to play competitively. And I guess tons of games fall into that category. What was that other game? Total Annihilation, I think. Annihilation. There we go. Yeah, this is another one that I feel like put a whole lot into this. Anyway, RTSs are like very, very expansive games to make as well. I haven't played the Stronghold game, so I can't comment on that. But yeah, if you want to make it, I think you should probably do a good amount of market research first and like talk to players that you think would be interested in the game and figure out what do they want. Do they want a competitive game? Do they not want one? The other thing is if you're planning on making it multiplayer, then like you've got a lot of uphill battles there because there's even in the most popular RTSs, there's been like rampant cheating over the years, and the way that you mitigate that is not easy at all. Single player story driven, not multiplayer competitive. Yeah, and if it's single player, then I think you can do a bit more with it in terms of like power and balancing. But yeah, I would say do some research, figure out what people want. It's generally a good idea because an RTS is not going to be a simple game to make, knock it out in a weekend kind of thing. There was a game I played a long time ago called Warlocked on Game Boy Color. I liked that game. That was like a pretty minimal RTS. Excuse me, the way it worked is you had the typical RTS stuff. So like you had a castle or whatever this was, and it could produce workers, I think. And then they cut down trees and they went to a gold mine to pick up gold. And then you got like a barracks kind of thing, and it could produce units. And then the special thing in this game was that you got hero units, probably called warlocks, I don't remember. And they had a special ability like turn the enemy into a sheep or I don't know, cast a fireball on something. So there was enough here, and it was a Game Boy game. So I mean, it had to be pretty simple because it had to fit in whatever number of kilobytes a cartridge had. Blizzard said 70% of StarCraft 2 players only play the campaign. Wow. Yeah. I mean, there are people like me too who have a lot of ladder anxiety, and like I just can't relax and play StarCraft 2, and I still watch StarCraft 2 pretty regularly. But man, that game is intense. Very intense. All right, we're going to take another break, and when we get back, we're going to merge this code. So where I left off, done with heal. So commit it and work on the next thing. I will be right back. Is it jump time? It's jump time. everybody. You know, I sort of measure the health of the stream by how many players I see in each Jump Royale game. How do you join the game? You just type the word join. And yeah, it's definitely not optimal for mobile, I know. So yeah, you can join even on the end screen, and then you can start practicing your jumps. Like J10 will jump slightly to the right, and J-10 will jump slightly to the left. All right. However, I do tend to close the game when I get back. So I'm going to get back to work. Let's see. Okay, so I'm still not checking this in. I'm going to keep looking at it every single time. So is this a good way of doing things? And I think it comes down to I don't want to prematurely optimize. And at the same time, I don't really want an interface like this. Like, we are checking to see if there's a particular component on this entity. I feel like maybe we should expose a function that is just get allies with missing life. Because would you ever want to heal? Oh, actually, you might. I was going to say, would you ever want to heal something that's at full life? And possibly you would, because of how abilities work in this game. So you might have an ability that's like heal, you know, +5 life to an entity. But then you get mods, and there might be like 3 different mods, and maybe one of them is something like, if the entity is already at max, increase their max by whatever, 10 or something. So this could never work if you couldn't heal entities that are a maximum. But in that case, I would know that about the ability and I would change it. So I think we're just not going to touch this for now. All we're doing is proving that this works. But yeah, developer experience wise, I think putting a where clause here is weird. And I think game design wise, you don't even necessarily want this in the first place. So yeah, let's just ignore that for now. We're also not going to even change these values. 0.5 healing. It's so bad. Maybe before we move too much farther, we should work in some stats. No, we don't have to do that. We just need to prove abilities work. Okay, yeah, this looks good. Heal is there. All right, we now have a get targets, just kind of in general. Heal damage. Yeah. Okay. And that's that. So let's check these things in. This, and this. Add heal ability. Cool. All right, make passive. That wasn't supposed to say passive. That was supposed to say passive ability. And then create things like counterattack and mental swiftness. All right, let's look at what we did over here for passive abilities. Passive abilities were literally just an ability ID over here. And the things that inherited from it, I can't search for that. What inherited from this? What? What am I looking at right now? This can't be right. There were only like 4 of these? What? That can't be right. Get burn damage multiplier. How did this work? Get level of ability. Okay, this is why. Because I stopped directly instantiating passive ability. Okay, yeah. So what did it mean to have a passive ability? And even in the case of counterattack, what does it mean? I guess nothing. It's really just a level. And we have a level in base ability. Yeah, levels right there. So a passive ability would really just be a flag. It's just something with an ID. I don't even know if we want name here necessarily. And then we just check to see if you have that ability. Okay. The way passives are designed is that there's going to be a class-based passive that you have. So you start with one ability, and then any skill points you add get added to passive abilities. So yeah, all they matter is that there's a level for them. Okay, pretty reasonable. Pretty reasonable. Unfortunately, we need an ID system in here, and we don't have that yet. Need to add an ability IDs system like we did for items. Otherwise, we won't have a way to fetch abilities by ID. Sounds reasonable. Let's go over to active ability and just save this as passive ability. And then just replace the word active everywhere. There's actually nothing to replace because we're going to delete the entire thing. Goodbye, code. Yeah. You know, the sprites pack has some icons for effects we could use, mostly for the stuff I mentioned in that issues comment. Guess we had to make them ourselves. I don't think we should go the icons route. I think that's not going to end up scaling well. I don't think it's going to be clear either. But no, I don't think it does have icons. The way that you can kind of look through some of them quickly is... Where did I put them? Hang on a second, let me find these. Okay, yeah. Yeah, so a lot of them have an atlas in them, and the ones with an atlas, you can just look at that to see everything all at once. So like this has no effect. This has no effect. Not that many of them would. I think it'd be something like, I don't know, where's the character pack? Where is the character pack? It's so hard to read these things. I don't see them. They might be in here. They're just called package 1, 2, and 3. Well, they're not these. I have no idea. Yeah, I don't think we have them. But I don't think adding icons for them is a good idea. Okay, so we have passive ability. This is pretty much the same as what we had over here. It just takes in an ID and then should pass it into the parent. And the parent doesn't even have this right now. And the parent here is ability. Ability is here, takes in an ID, stores it, and then gets a name based on that. Is it used anywhere? Get tooltip? It isn't. So then the name is probably not used anywhere. Although without the language server, I can't really tell easily. But yeah, I don't think this is needed. I think we just need an ID. Yeah, okay, cool. Well, then let's go do that. So I think there's a way of just passing this into the parent somehow. We need to start by making IDs. So we have item id.cs. This was an enumeration. I think that's pretty reasonable for abilities as well, although we do need to explicitly write their numbers out like this for save files. So let's save this somewhere. This is currently in items. I guess we'll just save it in abilities. Maybe we'll put it in base. I don't really know. Yeah, I think that's fine. All right, so this will be called ability ID. And then we just rename this to ability ID. And then I guess technically every ability should have an ID. Does something like Crush have one? Yes, it does. Okay, well, let's do that too. So we have basic attack. We have boulder. We have heal. I think that's it for now. Now, base ability should take in that ID. Ability ID ID. This equals ID. Name is ID like that. Hey, Burken. I don't think you can use capital letters for the commands, but you can use, anyway, there it is. There's the FAQ. So check that out. Welcome in. Now, what's the problem here? Element ID should begin with an uppercase letter. Oh, yeah. Id. All right. Yeah, pretty happy with that. So now every ability needs to construct this. And it should just give us an error, right? So that I don't need to do anything here. Except for I need to delete that first. Should give us like 4 errors, I think. I only see 2. No argument that corresponds to required parameter ID of what? I don't... Oh, there it is. I couldn't read that. Like, shouldn't there be a file name in there somewhere? Yeah, so this should just take in ability ID, and it should pass it off to base ability. Do you even need to do that? Can we just, does that work? Oh, yeah, there we go. All right, then active ability is the same way, and this is what should produce those other errors that we had. So let's copy this to here. And then get that. Nope. Items. Oh no. I saved that to the wrong folder. Oh no. Where's... I thought I chose the right thing. I didn't choose the right thing apparently. Where did that go? Ability ideas in game, ability space. Yeah, what? Oh, I put in the wrong oh, I know what I did. I put in the wrong namespace. Game source. It should just come up with it for me. Go. There. All right, well that means that we messed up. Items. Yeah, this can go away. And some other file I modified should probably be changed. Abilities based, that's fine. That's fine. That's not fine. All right, there's all that. So active ability was the last thing I changed. And that means that every active ability we need to go modify. So basic attack should know that it's a basic attack. No argument that corresponds to the parameter. Don't we just do super basic attack? Does that work? Super doesn't exist. God, I don't remember how to do this. It's in C#, and I did this the other way. Is it this? I don't remember. All right, C# call super constructor. How do you do this? Base. Okay, there it is. Base ability ID dot basic attack. Yeah. Use the same name as the type. I disagree with this. So if you have an ability, you'd end up with ability, like ability ID. And I think, I guess you'd do something like crush.id. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I like the repetition there. And I don't know what other ID you would have necessarily. But I'll try to take a look at that again before I check in and see if I like it better in practice. All right, so basic attack, we just went and modified. So we're just going to copy paste this and put it in folder and in heal. And then passive abilities, we don't actually have anything yet that inherits from this. But yeah, I guess all of these are going to require some special code. And I need to think about how I want this to work. Surely that's only relevant if you have more than one ID on that class. Yeah, that's what I would think in general. And if you do have more than one identifier, then yeah, it definitely makes sense to differentiate. Consider giving your property the same name as its type. I think it's a good consideration. I just think in the case of IDs, it doesn't matter too much. Okay, so technically this part is done. How do we want to code counterattack? So counterattack would be a passive ability. And something needs to check if you have it. So the simplest way would just be in take damage, check if you have it. If so, consider doing an attack back. I don't really like that. I'd rather have an event system. Like, yeah, and then counterattack could have something like public override void, yeah, on take damage. And then like roll dice, deal damage. This would be something like float to take in a battle, take in a source. So this would mean that we have an event that gets emitted. Yeah, I think this is probably what's best. That way you could have these reactionary passive abilities. Let's mock this up and see what it looks like. So this would be public virtual void on take damage. Oh, actually, this implies that it's a method that we know we're calling. Which I guess makes sense. Maybe passive abilities have some like initialize function that does this. Yeah, I just need to think of how will we call that function. I'd like to only call it on abilities that care. Surely if you're taking damage, that's on the character. That's just how this will be exposed. I think it makes sense in the context of coding this stuff. Like your passive abilities are things that happen at certain points, and your character has abilities. I just don't want it to pollute the battle system. Okay, so one way of doing this is something like what we had in health component where there's on health changed. I guess there could be a system. And anyway, listen to it over here. There could be an initialization. Yeah. I think I like this idea. I didn't actually say what it is, but I'm about to write it out. So how we call that? I like to call it only on abilities of care. It could be that passive abilities are initialized with a battle and just listen to the events that they care about. And then they can override whatever they want. So that's one way of doing things. Option number one would be this. Option number two would be every passive ability has virtual functions for all of the battle events. And for all abilities, we call these functions, and only the ones that overrode the functions actually do something. And I don't like this way because it means we're iterating over every passive ability every single time, which I think would be a mess. I think I'm leaning toward option one. So I think we'll code this and we'll see how it looks. And I don't foresee any problems with this. Oh, actually, I do maybe foresee one problem with this, which is abilities exist outside of a battle too. Outside of the context of a battle. So I guess we would just need to remove this stuff eventually. Otherwise, the battle is still going to be referenced. We need to clean up these listeners. Could we do that automatically? I guess if we make use of the parent class storing which listeners we set up, we maybe could. Yeah. Maybe have the parent class manage this with a cleanup function that will automatically remove all of the listeners. I don't know how the code for that'll look. How about we just do the first part of this for now? Do we have damaging passives in the design? You could technically have some fire aura that damages all enemies. Yeah, that could be done. And that would be, I guess, a time-based thing. So in that case, we would probably extend passive ability and have like time-based passive or something that emits, that has some clock and can emit an event. Although at that point, what I would probably, actually, no, I wouldn't even do it that way. I would probably frame it this way. You have a passive ability that's something like fire aura, and there's just an on start of battle event, and you listen for that and then add the fire aura like effect. And now the effect is responsible for dealing damage every so often. So I think that's how we would frame this. And I think that would be a good solution for this. So the ability doesn't need timers or anything because the effect system is already that. This is how a lot of games do this too, I think. Like existing games out there. Okay, let's start with the simple part of this, which, as I mentioned, was this. They're initialized with a battle. So in this case, we don't have an on-take damage here. We have a public virtual void initialize, which takes in, what do we call it, a battle system? Did I code counterattack already? I didn't. Okay, well, we need to go do that. We should probably split up abilities. Right now, we just have an abilities folder. We'll just split up eventually. For now, I'll just throw this in here. I was going to say we should split up by passive and active abilities. I'll just write myself a note to do that at the end. Sort abilities into passive and active folders. Whoops. Well, that was a mess. What am I doing? Oh, it's not even on my clipboard anymore. There we go. Do we have damaging passives in the design? You could technically... Oh, wait. Yeah, sorry. I already answered that. By the way, I didn't answer your first question, which is, do we have them in a design? Not really, but that's not super important because I just haven't designed all the abilities. So that's why the whole point of this task is just make sure we can do all of this stuff. In fact, maybe I end up adding something like that. Add a fire aura passive. This would be one that adds an effect at the beginning of battle to the attached entity. All right, so initialize takes in a battle system and then the associated entity. And that's Godot. This is something that counterattack that needs to use. We don't actually have a passive ability yet. So let's go copy everything from basic attack. Copy this over to here, which we can't actually do until we make a new ability ID. Counterattack. Now, is counterattack one word? I don't actually know. Yes. Don't think this is down to the extension I'm running, but if you select text, then backtick. Yeah, sometimes that works. And when I say sometimes, I mean some programs do that. So GitHub does do that. Yeah, and I could do that. And Obsidian does that. But then there are other cases where that's not done automatically. Like by default in my VS Code, it doesn't work that way. And since I always forget which program has it work by default, I just end up typing it the way that works everywhere and waste time by doing that. But yeah, I should just learn that GitHub allows it. All right, so this is counterattack. This extends from passive ability. This is the word counterattack. Cooldown is not a thing here. APX. Nightmare exam. 2 more days, then you'll be done. Or maybe like 2.5 days. But good luck. Hope it goes well. What's the exam in? All right, so in this case, we initialize and we say what we want to add this to. To do, add a listener for like on damage taken, and to do, figure out cleanup of that listener. All right, let's do this stuff. So the battle system needs that event. We're gonna add an action to the battle system. And what are we calling this? Like on entity damage taken. This is going to pass in a battle system and an entity. No, wait, the source entity. And then maybe the amount of damage. And then, what else? Oh, what did I say over here? What did I say? Where is it? Where is it? Did I not write this out? Oh, there it is. Node source, battle, float damage. Anything else? Oh, the associated entity, the target, node target. Now, what did I do over here for this stuff? Where's poison here? This is chance to spread, source, target, battle. Okay, yeah, just checking. We'll play Botland OST as celebration. Programming paradigms theory, stuff like writing semantics, SLD resolution trees. Yeah, I know all the classes I remember taking. I think I took a class similar to that. And I think it was more important than I thought it was at the time. And it's too bad you can't know when you're taking a class how important it's going to be. But yeah, that's important. I think obviously the programming classes were important. I never actually took one on databases, but I sort of wish that I had. For whatever reason, databases were an elective and not a required class. Icky. So now every time I do something with databases, it's always my like hodgepodge knowledge I've collected over the years. All right, well, anyway, we're going to try with something like this. And we need to emit this in deal damage. So this is going to get invoked with this source target incoming damage. Yeah, perfect. It makes sense, I guess, that anything that would be in this is going to need to be shifted over to here. So cool. All right, now we have a listener. We did not initialize these things. It's probably going to be me. I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, there are people who didn't get degrees in computer science at all and who are doing computer science stuff. So it's not like you need a formal education to do it. And I think that's actually one of the beauties of computer science. It's very modular. So you could focus on like web development your entire time and probably just never learn half of the things about computers you might need. Make sure in your counterattack doesn't trigger on damage over time effects. Yeah, so that's interesting. This is where, and I think you mentioned this in one of the battle systems you had, that you could have a source and it could be like direct damage, damage over time. Let's write that down over here. So this is like cleanup stuff, I guess. Say make sure that we seed damage type everywhere. Or maybe just the ability that caused it. No, not the ability. I don't think we care about that. So that you don't counterattack a damage over time. Yeah. You just need to be able to learn. Yeah. Yeah, not all professions work that way. I mean, in some cases, you do need certifications. And actually, probably computer science doesn't even work that way across the entire world. In the US, you don't need any sort of certification to be a programmer or call yourself a software engineer. But I think in other places, you can't be called anything engineer without having some certification of some sort. But I don't really know how that works. Okay, so we have the event. Now, counterattack is going to need to listen to that event, which means that when we initialize with the battlers, we're going to go through each battler and get its ability component. Abilities component, AC equals get. And then for each ability, we would go through and get any passive ones and call initialize with the battle. I don't think active abilities would ever need this, but there could be an initialize for it. Maybe just to reset any counters or variables that might exist in it. I could see that mattering. Did I ever need that in idle ascendance? I don't think there was such a thing. But imagine, I mean, it's not that hard to imagine. Imagine you have an ability where it's something like every time you use this, it gets whatever, 5% stronger. Which I should probably write down as an idea because that's kind of cool. Pretty much means that as the battle goes on, you'll eventually be doing nearly infinite damage. We could say like caps it plus 100% or something like that. So the way you would do this is you would, in the current system, you would need to put like a buff on the entity that says something like, that's very specific to this ability. So that's not a good way of doing it. So I think we will need an initialization here. I see. Okay, so that has kind of proven to me that we should probably write that here. Create an active ability that gets stronger every time you use it. This is just something that would need an initialization each battle. So we get an abilities component. Is there a way to get all of your abilities? Yes, it's right there. And there's no way to check right now to get just the passive ones, let's say. Although iterating over these shouldn't be that hard. You'll only ever have 2 active abilities. So if you're iterating over all of them, then that means you're only doing 2 extra iterations, which is not really a problem. So now we want to iterate over those. Yeah, for each. And we want to say if, can you put curly braces here? Is this a thing that's allowed? Yes, you can. Okay, so if ability is passive ability, and then just rename this to passive ability, then call initialize and pass in all the stuffs. What are the stuffs? I don't remember. I've already ejected it from my memory. Battle system and entity. Yeah. Battle system and entity. So this and then the entity itself. I guess it's battler. All right. Collection does not have a definition of for each. Oh, you need to do it this way. For each ability colon? I don't remember. I don't know how to write a for each loop. You think I pay attention to this stuff? It's in, not a colon. All right. Whoa. Hold on. Did I say generate? Oh, it's called base ability now? Oh, yeah, right. Ah. All right, there we go. Now in counterattack, we can write to add a listener in here. Yeah. All right, so we go to battle system dot damage taken plus equal. And now here we want a function, private void on damage taken. This is source target damage battle. Okay, so now we just add this on damage taken. All right, figure out the cleanup is going to be a thing we need to still do. We need to check if this is not null. There's no way this will be null, so let's set this to not null here. Actually, do we have to do that if the parent class has it? I definitely want this in the parent class. I don't know. I don't know if it'll just not match the signature or something. What happens if we... This should be gone, right? The squiggly. Hides inherited member. This should have said override. All right, so if we delete this, does it complain at us? Yes. Okay, good. That's exactly what I want. All right, and then same thing. This also can't be null. Not null. Because we know we're initializing this with an entity. And if that ever changes, then we're going to have a problem. All right, so on damage taken, let's just have the source deal damage. How does this work? Have the same names, but not the same order. Oh, really? Wow. Yeah, this is intentional, though. All right, so we're just going to make it immediately reflect whatever damage was done back. So this should work. Let's try it out. Yeah, this is going to be annoying. I could say something like node intentional target equals target, and then intentional target. It's so stupid. So stupid. Yeah, that's stupid. All right, let's not worry about that for right now. So on the title screen, we're going to give your player characters are all going to have, we should just make an abilities array at this point. Are these arrays actually, or are they lists? They're collections. Okay, yeah, so collection ability abilities equals new. Oh wait, we could just do that. And then we say abilities dot what push add heal new heal. All right, delete that, put this down here, delete this stuff, and have this be abilities. Oh man, I don't want this to be named base ability anymore. Yeah, I want to just be named ability, I think. But I could probably get used to that. All right, closing brace all of that. There we go. Cannot convert from a collection of abilities to a collection of active abilities. Oh, why are they active abilities? I think this should just be changed to be base ability. Yeah. Which means this should also be changed to be base ability. Abilities equals new. These are just abilities. All right, that might cause some ripple effects. Well, what we want to do is we want to add in counterattack. New counterattack. All right, so all of your characters have a counterattack. And I guess just delete this for now. That's annoying, but whatever. Okay, so all of your characters have counterattack. All the enemies have basic attack. So what should happen, and it's probably just going to be a build error because I am guessing that I have some other issue from not having active abilities anymore. Okay, what should happen is that all the skeletons should be taking 1 damage every time they deal 1 damage. What actually happened is that we got 300 debugger errors. So let's fix that. Unable to cast, yeah. Where are you? Counterattack to an active ability, but where's that cast trying to happen? Battle system 121. Okay, yeah. I realize I need to change this. Active ability. Yeah, this is not the case anymore. We want a, what, of type active ability? Yeah. That should do that. Still not working. Whoops. What happened there? Just crashed? Whoa. That's not good. Does it crash every time? It does. Wow. I crashed the game. Well, that's not fun. I wonder why that's happening. I wonder if of type doesn't do what I expect. Filters based on a specified type. No, it does do what I expect. Well, if I delete this, does the game crash? I doubt it. Nothing should even happen anymore. Hey, Nero. Yeah, the game doesn't crash and nothing happens. So the issue's coming from here somehow. I'm not exactly sure how, but I think it's probably this. So let's just debug this. Now, chances are I left some gauze inside the surgery patient. Yeah, these things go away. And you too go away. All right. So ability, what are you? You are basic attack. You are cleared. Cleared for launch. You are cleared for launch. Good. Good. So that's 4 of those. Now, no, it's still basic attack. Can we see this over here somehow? Yeah, we can. Okay, there we go. No, it's always basic attack. Why did this crash then? Well, how's counterattack working? Counterattack. Let's put a breakpoint in initialize, and let's put a breakpoint in on damage taken, and let's restart the whole thing. We will get to the bottom of this. So, what? You know, that works. Okay, good. This is null. I don't think that means anything, but that seems to work. Okay, cool. So let's hit the play button. And it does get hit. Okay. So we step into this and we call deal damage. And our source and target should be set correctly. Source is set, target is set, incoming damage is set to 1. Sounds good to me. Do damage, create text. Oh, and then it enters an infinite loop. Oh, because we have a problem here. Well, whoops. We need some sort of flag saying that it's not counterable damage, I guess. How is this possible, though? Oh, darn it. Oh, I see. Yeah, we need to also prevent counterattack loops. That's something I hadn't really thought of. Although counterattack should always just be a chance or something like that. Where is this? There, yeah, this. Make sure you can't enter infinite loops with counterattack on both teams. All right, so the real problem here is this, that this event is getting called every single time any entity takes damage and not when just this ability should be involved. So what we really would need to do here is we need to keep track. Okay, so it'd be something like this, and this is not how I want to do this, but I'm going to write this down anyway. We need a private node entity equals null. And then entity equals entity. And then here, if target is equal to the entity, that's the only time we care about it. Oh, I thought I had done that correctly. Whoops. Yeah, put this stuff up here. All right, I think that should fix the infinite loop, but I don't like this. But let's see. Nice, it's working. Okay, so what looks like it's doing, it looks like my characters are dealing 1 damage to their characters, but actually it's just a counterattack. Well, I guess it is dealing 1 damage, but it's a counterattack. So it's the skeletons attacking and then these immediately auto attacking back. We could actually double the damage to kind of show this. So times 2. So now counterattack will always kill the enemy team faster than the player team. Yeah. This is essentially just a cooldown visualizer. Basic attack has a randomized cooldown between like 2 and 4 or something like that. So the ones taking more damage are the ones with lower cooldown. Okay, so the big question is how do we make this better? Because I don't want to store this everywhere. Well, maybe, I don't know, maybe I do. I guess the battle system could just not emit events regardless of what's going on here. Excuse me. Could be the entity that listens. Okay, there are lots of ways I could do this. So problem, the way I coded things, the battle system emits this every single time any entity takes damage. I only care about the times that the counterattack entity takes damage. So option number 1 is just have counterattack check if it's the right entity. Option number 2, what had I set up here? Every passive ability has virtual functions for all the battle events. For all abilities, we call these functions, and only the ones that overrode those actually do something. This would be the same problem. We could have the battle system be aware. Battle system be aware of which entities care. So like the entity subscribes and passes this to its abilities. This would work. But there's no concept of the entity subscribing. Although actually, if we made a separate component for that, yeah, we could have like a passive subscription, passive subscription component. I wouldn't actually call it this. This would make cleanup easier. But this requires that the entity knows which passives are on it. This still means every entity would be listening and then doing its own filtering. And then there's another question, which is what happens if we ever want a passive that can happen when damage is dealt to anyone? And yeah, we just wouldn't be able to do that. We need to filter differently. So having the ability filter it itself is not too bad. Just want to think about this some more. There's a lot going on. We could have an on damage taken to attached entity function. Man, like I said, I think it needs to go through an entity for that. All right, how would that look? An entity would need to know which abilities care about this sort of thing. Or it's just emitting a signal itself regardless. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I guess imagine in Battler, although we wouldn't put this here, we'd put it in a component. Imagine in Battler, we have an initialize with the battle stuff like what we had over here. And then this would look through all the passive abilities that we have. Passive ability. So we do something like this. No, I wouldn't do this. What am I talking about? It would do this. Yeah, and then we'd also have a function like this in here somewhere. So that's that one. And then we have this, which is going to go through all of our... No, this would need to check to see if it's for us. If target equals, target's not equal to this, then return. Otherwise, go into every passive ability that we have and call into these functions. On damage taken. And then this would have all the things that we pass in here, source target, damage. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I don't like the idea of an ability keeping track of which entity it's associated with. Hey, Coffee. I'm glad you like watching this. I feel like chat has not been very active. It always makes you wonder, like, are people doing their own thing? Are they just watching, being like, what is this guy talking about? It's always hard to follow somebody else's code base, I guess. We doing this in pure TXT? No, I'm just planning out how do I want to solve this. A lot of hemming and hawing. Well, it's true because what I'm doing here is a foundational system, and I don't want to get into a case where this is annoying to code for any future systems. Let's think of some of the other passives that we had, like mental swiftness. How would this work? This is like anytime an entity uses an ability. And again, we only care about the entity using the ability. Hey, Sam. Even if you'd been here, though, before, I think it's still sometimes just hard to follow this stuff. I think that's just a downside of coding streams, especially with closed source code bases. So the short overview of what we're doing here is we're making passive abilities. And there are going to be abilities like counterattack, which is when you take damage, potentially attack back. There's going to be something like mental swiftness, when you use an ability, potentially reset the cooldowns of abilities. So these are all reactive things. Maybe there's something like fire aura, which is, you know, deal damage every 5 seconds. What I'm trying to do is figure out, can I code all of these things, and do I like how I've coded them? So we started with counterattack, and where did that just go? Did I clicked it in a way that somehow closed it? All right, I don't know what I did there, but anyway, here it is. So counterattack is pretty basic. Rick, thanks for resubbing, and welcome back. I like the emote usage. So this is really simple. We have an initialize thing, and it just says when an entity takes damage, call into this event, and this event just says deal damage back to the source. So very simple, but the problem that we have here is that this function is called for every single entity in battle, not just the one with counterattack. So do we want to just keep it that way? And then the ability knows, oh, we only care when it's us who got attacked? Or do we only want events to even make it here if it was the right entity? And I feel like I want it to be the second one. I think you should only care about the entity you're attached to most of the time. And if you want to do something special, then fine. And initialize, you can listen to like any entity took damage. I think that's what I'm leaning toward. Oh, man. Yeah. I don't know what that would do for the code base. So I think we would just listen to another event. Fire an event, incoming damage scheduled, and let any system vote if it's allowed to be committed by the sender. Yeah, that would be the ability to change something that could be done. But that is probably going to need to be done for a different ability entirely. And I'm not sure if we want something like that in the game, because I think those effects can be kind of tough to tell that they're even happening. Okay, so I'm leaning toward passive abilities not knowing which entity they're attached to, and just being able to say something like, on my entity, damage taken, and something figures it out for them. So if we did that, then here's what this class would look like. We'd get rid of this. We'd say like on my entity damage taken, we'd get rid of this. We'd get rid of this. And we just have this. So it'd be something like that. So like dead simple. We're just saying we care about the event where it's my entity who gets attacked. So now how would we route this over here? I guess it'd be in the entity itself. Entity.on damage taken. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, entity would have to figure this out. So yeah, I guess that's the question, is how does it figure it out? And yeah, I think we just do something along these lines. All right, I kind of want to mock up that system. Well, this is one way of doing it. Yeah, there are two things here. How does an entity know that it took damage? And yeah, it has subscriptions in some component, like what counterattack is doing now. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it, right? Just the entity filtering this for itself. Anything else? But every entity would be listening for this because it wouldn't know what passives it has. So if every entity is going to listen, then we might as well just, oh man. Yeah, the keyboard is definitely something that is somewhat unique. This isn't Visual Studio though. This is Visual Studio Code, which runs on pretty much every operating system and even on the web. But yeah, welcome in, and definitely let me know if you have any questions. I'm getting close to the end of the stream for the morning anyway, though. I want to get lunch. I'll probably just do another like little bit of thought on this and see what we're doing. The problem is that entities don't know which passive abilities will care about which events. So they would just always get this event. I mean, that's not necessarily a problem. But at that point, it doesn't make sense for it to be a subscription. It can just be a function that we expect will exist. So how are we registering this then? Like counterattack just knows that it's an ability that cares about a certain event. And I guess it's the entity that's going to emit it. And so the entity needs this somewhere, and it would be probably in some component that we have. I guess it'd look more like this. ECS.get component. What we call this? I don't know. Battle event component. Yeah. Yeah, that's it, I guess. Okay. Well, let's try it out. I don't know. I'm a little torn, but yeah, I think this would lead to better code. So yeah, let's go add this in. I'll save this as battle event component. We'll rename this battle event. And this is gonna have the subscriptions here somewhere. We don't need max life. And this would need to get added by all of these. And then how did counterattack work? We have an on damage taken thing. We also need cleanups of these. We probably just delete the whole thing after the battle. Yeah. All right, let's try it. Probably also want to make a proper event args thing out of this, because otherwise it's going to be probably super tedious. I'll just write this down. Consider making a proper event args so that I don't have 4 generic parameters and then have to update everything if we ever add a 5th. What's for lunch? I'm not totally sure. We have a bunch of leftovers because we had company over on Monday. And I got to see what we've got. Okay, so we put this into this new battle event component. It goes here. We need all of the usings that we have. This, using this. All right, this would be on entity damage taken, sure. All right, then in the battle, like I said, I'm just going to try to mock this up pretty quickly. For every battler that we have, let's add a component. We're going to call this the battle event component, BEC equals ECS.add component. What's going on here? What does that component take? It takes in the component. Oh, I see. New. Are we done with that, or did I do that backwards? Node entity component. Yeah, there. Yeah. Okay, then. So there's on entity damage taken. This is where we take from what was in counterattack. Where did I? There it is. On entity damage taken. Okay, this. Sorry, there's a lot to keep in my head here. This is. So we want this event that I had. Want this thing to listen to that. Yeah. Plus equal. So this would be the events thing that we have on entity damage taken. Okay, yeah, there. Now, what's the problem here? Can only appear on the left or right hand side of this. I messed something up. This should exist. Actually, writing logic. Yeah, well, once the system's set up too, it'll just be set up and then we can just use it. But I'm busy messing things up right now. What did I do wrong here? Oh, I made another delegate over there. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see. So I need for that component to listen. Yeah, so we would actually have both a listener and a, okay. I see. And I wrote this down over here too. I just never actually coded it. Yep. All of this pretty much. And then this probably doesn't even belong here. So we have an initialize. We say on entity damage taken, target equals this, return. Otherwise go through everything. Yeah, I think this is sort of what I want. All right, so we do bec.initialize this. And it does need to take an entity. Oh, darn it. That's what I was trying to avoid. Oh, man. How else would I do this? Okay. Hang on. Bail out of this for a second. Damage. There's a take damage thing, right? This. There's no way for me to do filtering in here because I don't know what listened to this. And the entity could know. We could put this into the battler itself. Alternatively, okay, I'll just finish this sketch at least. This would take in an entity. And then in the battle event component, we take in that entity, not null node entity. And then we put this stuff in here. Entity equals null. Store this. Target is not equal to entity, then return. Okay, so now fix all of the missing usings that we have here. All right, now passive ability does not contain. Did I delete this from here? Was this never here? Oh, it was never here. I would need to add this in. Okay, so this is showing me that, yeah, I see. We've just coded option number 2. Yeah. So I think that's what we need to do then, is just actually commit to option number 2 here. Every passive ability has virtual functions for the battle events, and the battle system does the filtering. Okay, well, that was clear. It took me a while. There's like 10 minutes. Yeah, let's code this, and then we'll see if that makes sense. All right. Yeah, so let's say update. I ended up coding option number 2 from way above. So let's just try that out. And then if I don't like that for some reason, we can see where that takes us. Gotta check the code later. Yeah. Yeah, well, we'll see. I think this should all make sense at the end. So what did I write for this? Every passive ability has virtual functions for all the battle events. And for all abilities, we call these functions. And only the ones that overrode them actually do something. Yeah. So we go into passive event. First, let's start with counterattack and take this up to passive ability. Put this here. This becomes virtual. So this is on damage taken. I think all this other stuff makes sense. So there's our function. Now, what's the problem here? Virtual or abstract cannot be private. Oh, yeah, I didn't mean to do that. Public, cool. Now we override that in counterattack. So public override void on damage taken. This is just going to be when it's this entity, I guess. So we can delete this from here and just ignore the warning for now. Yep. Now it's validated. It's not null. Yeah, sure. That's not hard to do. Source and target, I also don't think would be null, but let's also not worry about that for right now. We'll just put this into here. Okay, next, the battle system needs to call into this for the right entities. So all this nonsense can be deleted. And we go into deal damage. And the way this is going to work is we're going to call whatever I had in the battle event thing. This. All right, this can be simplified, but we're just gonna copy paste it in here for now. So get the target's abilities, go through all of them, and call on damage taken with this and the incoming damage. Okay, now counterattack overrode this, right? Yeah, now there are no things to clean up here. We don't need this anymore. We don't need this. Okay, it should work. Let's try it. Failed to build because of battle event component. Oh, wait, what? This code shouldn't even exist anymore. Well, let's just comment all of that out. Oh, then they'll probably give me a different error. You like coding? That's generally what happens, I think, when you watch something like this. I think it's good, though. It's like co-motivation. There. Okay, cool. So what's happening is the skeletons are doing 1 damage to the player characters, and the player characters are counterattacking for 2 damage. And hopefully there are no errors. Yeah. So now the only question is, am I happy with this? Oh, man. So this can be abstracted out a little bit at least, but we have an event. Something happened and we emit an event, essentially. This isn't quite an event, though. It's just calling functions directly. Yeah, so let's try one other thing here just to prove that this is working. We're going to put counterattack in here and delete it from here. So your players will do nothing, and only the very first one is gonna counterattack. And that's our test if that's actually working correctly. Yeah, so whenever this one gets a 1 on it, the corresponding enemy will get a 2 on it. I guess it's pretty hard to tell that that's working, but I think it is. Yeah, I think it's working. We could have made this more obvious, I guess, by putting it on this entity, 0, 1, 2. Yeah, let's put on the second one, 0, 1, 2. There we go. And that way there aren't overlapping entities there. It's only when this one takes damage now. Yeah. Yep, that's definitely working. Oh. So I think post-lunch, we have a couple things, which is evaluate the nonsense I did before lunch and see if I like it and if it'll scale. And then there's no consider making, it's just make a proper event args. Let me look at this one time before we go to lunch. Go through each ability and call this. I mean, I could think of slightly easier ways we could code this. I definitely want to consolidate this, but what does this imply? This means that every time damage is dealt, we go through every single passive ability on the target. We probably also go through every single passive ability on the source, because maybe there's an on-deal damage event that could happen. I think this is a good starting point, at least. Yeah, I think it's a good starting point. All right, well, here's what I'm thinking. We are going to wrap this work up early afternoon and then start this work. This is how we'll get buffs and debuffs to work in the game. And then we'll try coding some new abilities. So yeah, this is probably gonna last for longer than just today. This will probably bleed into Friday. I might think about it during lunch. I'll probably just tune out and watch like YouTube or something. By the way, I have not heard back from Sharon for Friday. So I'm not sure the interview's actually happening. And it's possible that she's messaging me through some means that I'm not actually seeing. I've had this happen before. I don't have WhatsApp. And yet I've had people tell me like, hey, I messaged you months ago. And I'm like, I have no way of seeing your message through WhatsApp. So I'm not sure if she maybe used that or if she's been out or sick or something. But yeah, there was an interview planned for Friday. Yeah, and I mentioned this earlier, but for the people who didn't hear it, normally Tuesdays I make a YouTube video, and yesterday I was just out of it, and I didn't make one. So normally I would be launching it in like 10 minutes, but there's nothing to watch now. So maybe watch an old YouTube video over lunch. Anyway, that's it for now. I'll be back in about an hour. It's right around noon my time. And then the afternoon stream should be about 3 hours. So I hope you've been enjoying, and I hope we continue to make good progress. I'm very happy with how this morning went. And yeah, I'll see you all later. Bye.